Am I having a hallucination?
Hi, Emily.
You also know her?
We were at Runway at the same time, Miranda.
Okay, I just finished watching The Devil Wears Prada 2, and it's probably for the best that the movie barely borrows anything from Revenge Wears Prada. See, back in 2006, when we first saw Miranda Priestley and Andy Sachs on screen, characters walked out of Lauren Weisberger's best-selling novel, The Devil Wears Prada. And yes, that film too took some creative liberties, and it was a great decision. From reshaping Andy's personality to giving Miranda more depth, and most importantly, changing the climax, David Frankel gave Lauren's work much more life. Now, when the sequel was announced, we knew it would use characters based on Weisberger's work, but I really did not see the major turn it would take away from Lauren's book sequel, Revenge Wears Prada. Yes, it is not a direct adaptation of the second book, but I am gonna admit I was skeptical about how the movie would hit home 20 years after the original. And safe to say, with a new screenplay from Aline Broche McKenna, Runway has once again stolen our hearts.
Hello?
Well, look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The reason Andy went back to Runway. The Devil Wears Prada 2 picks up 20 years after Andy got out of that car and left Miranda for good. She is now a prominent reporter in New York, and just when life was moving in full glory for her, with people showering her with love and praise, one text changes Andy's world and her entire newsroom. Due to rising layoffs and downsizing, Andy gets fired early on in the film from a worthy but underpaid job writing government exposés at a fictional publication named New York Vanguard. She has finally made it. No more fetching coffee or chasing down unpublished Harry Potter manuscripts. Meanwhile, Miranda Priestley is in trouble after Runway runs into a PR crisis, having accidentally promoted a company connected to sweatshop labor. And who does the owner of Runway's parent company, Elias Clark, bring in to restore the magazine's credibility? Obviously, Andrea Sachs. Miranda's boss does so without her consent, sparking old antagonism. In the book, however, Andy's agency was somewhat curbed, as she had no other option but to get drawn into her old boss's tantrums after Miranda acquired the bridal magazine The Plunge that she and Emily had been running successfully. Yes, to an extent, the book Andy is reduced to a version who has nightmares about Miranda, yet is sadly put under the latter's power all over again, despite her reservations and trauma. The film, on the other hand, gives Andy a much stronger voice and aura, and Anne Hathaway slayed it.
Pull yourself together, we have work to do. And by we, I mean you.
Miranda was much more brutal in the book. I understand that some viewers felt that Miranda's vibe and sassiness were kinda downplayed in The Devil Wears Prada 2. Yes, there were moments where Miranda came off as softer than what she was in the first movie, and she even occasionally explained her motives. Yet, she still had this streak of meanness, and personally, it kinda worked for me, because it's been 2 decades and a whole lot of things have changed. Not only has she gotten wiser and more experienced, she is now also understanding the vulnerability of print media, which I guess was well reflected in the subtle changes brought to her character. But would I have loved to see an absolutely unhinged Miranda Priestley? Hell yeah. However, given the context, the restraint felt a little unavoidable. Now, this is where readers might praise the book, because the Miranda in Revenge Wears Prada still walks with that unwavering confidence and a ruthless promise to own the world, which eventually falls on Andy's bridal magazine. On the pages, even after a decade, Miranda's personal conflicts take the forefront, and her interest in the Plunge's success makes her determined to bring it under her empire. In short, she remains the most powerful woman in both publishing and fashion. Fun fact, Miranda is still so arrogant that she apparently does not immediately remember Andy or Emily working for her. And this side of her dominant character is shown through the movie's trailer itself too, where she refers to Andy as one of Emily's. Frankel explained that the decision may be a little bit of a ploy on her part, but also comes from the reality that a first boss may mean everything to an employee, while that same boss has had countless assistants. McKenna also said it has been 20 years, and Miranda has probably had around 50 assistants, so not remembering Andy on site is understandable.
I'm Andy Sachs.
Charlie, I'm the second assistant.
Hi, Charlie.
Andy's love life has been sidelined for good in the movie. Compared to her questionably unsupportive boyfriend Nate in the last part, Andy found someone more supportive in this movie, a real estate contractor from Australia who is so amused with Andy that he stares at her while she talks about her work. He arrives at the film's midpoint when Andy has comfortably settled back at Runway magazine as its new features editor. The Devil Wears Prada 2 beats around the bush when it comes to their actual wooing or dating, beyond a dinner scene, and does not really give their relationship any major plot function either. The two even get into a fight when she unintentionally disrespects his job as an apartment renovator while sulking that she may lose her own position. so why even give Andy a boyfriend? Patrick Bremmel clarified to Vanity Fair, the function of that character is to be a supportive guy for Andy Sachs. It's a nice, easy chemistry, sure, but it results in a character who feels like an unwelcome throwback to a different era of storytelling, where women in movies, and comedies in particular, simply required a romantic happily ever after of sorts, even if no one asked for it. I understand Andy's love interest angle was probably an unnecessary inclusion and had no real meaning, but compared to the book, I'll take this one any day. In Revenge Wears Prada, Andy is excited and planning her wedding with Max when she finds a letter written by her fiancé's mother who claims that Andy is not suitable for marriage and also talks about meeting a beautiful, rich ex-girlfriend whom her husband has forgotten to mention. Andy still does not bring it up and quite cowardly goes ahead with the wedding, and soon enough, she is revealed to be pregnant too. Honestly, I'm kinda glad that Andy was not given this damsel in distress approach in The Devil Wears Prada 2, but then again, I do agree that a little more focus on Andy and Peter's dynamic would have worked better, choosing the middle ground rather than either of the two extremes between Nate and Max. Emily and Andy's friendship. In the novel, Emily and Andy gradually become best friends after Emily gets fired from Runway. They then start their own magazine featuring celebrity weddings, focusing on fashion, planning tips, and all of those basic bestie things. Emily becomes this sort of mentor to Andy and continues to drag her into higher NYC society functions to promote their business. She also helps her with styling, always telling her what to wear, because, well, you know, it's Emily. In fact, she is the one who introduces Andy and Max. But at the end of the day, Emily, and even Andy's husband, who invested in their magazine and thus has voting shares in her company, go behind Andy's back and sign the contract giving the magazine away to Miranda. Andy becomes furious and quits the job, and even asks for a divorce. Personally, I loved when she said, "I quit. I'm not going to work for Miranda, and I'm not going to stay with a man who treats me like a doormat for my daughter to witness." The movie, too, loosely follows Emily's betrayal, with Emily now positioned as a powerful luxury brand executive. She is even more polished and brutal, and seemingly reconnects with Andy. Now, to save Runway, Andy comes up with a plan. She enlists Emily and her uber-rich boyfriend Benji Barnes to come in as a white knight buyer and purchase the publication before Jay can destroy it. But here too, Emily betrays her, this time with her own partner, and it is revealed that she engineered the whole deal so that Benji could buy the magazine out from under Miranda and put Emily in charge of running it. Poor Andy was exploited as a tool without even knowing it, but she manages to defeat Emily and even reconciles with her in the end. The culmination of Andy's journey. The Devil Wears Prada 2 concludes with the Runway staff returning to the Big Apple and Andy's choices forcing Miranda, Emily, and the magazine itself into a new chapter. Instead of making the ending only about Andy's romance or motherhood, the film keeps the focus on her voice, her career, and the strange, complicated power Miranda still has over her life. Miranda finally acknowledges in her own icy way that Andy's idealism still matters. Andy, meanwhile, no longer feels like the terrified assistant who once ran through New York trying to survive Runway. She is sharper now, more independent, and more willing to challenge the people around her. That is the biggest reason the movie ending works better for me than the book's ending. In Revenge Wears Prada, the focus shifts to Andy's personal life in the end, where she gets back with her ex, Alex. Now, I was never a big fan of Alex because of his self-righteousness and the idea that his job is more important than Andy's because, by teaching, he is actually making a difference, while Andy's fashion world is just superficial. But by the second book, Alex matures enough, and the two get back together and lean more into the angle of her motherhood. The movie reduces Andy's private life drama to show her as this independent and successful woman who does maintain her relationships, but raises her voice when needed. I guess a lot changed between the time Revenge Wears Prada and The Devil Wears Prada 2 were released, and these changes were probably creative decisions to focus more on Andy as a person and portray her skills. Alright guys, that's all for today. The majority of the book's events take place in Andy's mind as she struggles to overcome the anxiety Miranda gave her, and the pacing too is a little slow, filled with character reflection. Revenge Wears Prada moves in the direction of Andy becoming a mom, and I understand why The Devil Wears Prada 2 chose to dilute the source material, because it's really difficult to make a sequel work after all these years unless these are some exciting conflicts or big life-changing decisions. Do let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you liked this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!